So I want to show you how I use a 2x72 belt grinder to form the burr, establishing our edge on the finished knife. Then we'll take it to final sharpening. Let's do this. Now there's all kind of ways to do this. I mean, there's jigs you can make, there's sharpening systems, that sort of thing that you can get. But this is the way I was taught, and I've done it this way for 30 plus years. Is it perfect? Probably not, but it works just fine. And it's extremely efficient and fast for me. And I have no problem doing it. Once you learn how to do it, it's second nature. The main thing I want to do is form the burr, and I'm going to be using a wheel on this grinder to do this. So if I was doing a convex grind, for example, I would be using a slack belt, say for a chopper or a bushcraft knife, where I would put a convex on it. But this knife will have a standard secondary bevel, and I'll be using a wheel to do that. And one of the key things that I make sure of when I finish my primary bevel, it's down to where it's around 20 thousandths or less on this edge. So it's very thin. Around 20 thousandths is where you want to be. It'll perform just fine for choppers or whatever you're building. All I'm going to do is make a secondary bevel there and form that burr. I don't want to see a big nickel wide edge here. That means that the edge is thick, and the more you sharpen it, the harder it is to sharpen and keep a good edge on it. Get them down thin, the edge will last longer, it'll hold the edge better, and it just don't look terrible. So you could use stones and whatever system you want to use. You just want to get your burr formed so you can get to the final sharpening. I'll be starting with a 220 grit belt, and I'll be working up to a 600 grit belt for a final polish on that edge. I'm going to get the burr formed, and I'll actually knock it off right here. Okay, now we've got our edge established and polished, and our burr is for the most part gone. There's several ways we can go here now. You can use sharpening systems like Wicked Edge, a Lansky, or stones. I actually have one of the original Lanskys. I just don't use it. But I'm going to be using a ceramic butcher's rod. It's 1 inch in diameter. I'll finalize the polished edge and make sure that burr is gone. And then we're going to move on to a leather strop. So let me show you how I use this. Now, one way to use it is like some butchers use it, which is hold it at your angle and just work it back and forth. Polish your edge. But that's not how I'm going to use it. I like to take the rod, come in here, hold it at my angle where I can almost feel that edge. Then I'll feel it. See if I can feel that burr or any burr that's left. Got a pretty good edge. I'll do a thumbnail test. It bites into my thumbnail all the way down. Now we're going to move on to the leather strop. Now you can use a traditional leather strop like a barber strop, or even a wheel that mounts to a bench grinder. There's also a 2x72 leather belt. I used to have one and I completely wore it out. Those all work great. But this is quick and easy, cheap, and works just fine. It's just a block of wood, a piece of leather glued on top of it. And what I'm going to do is work this knife back and forth and fine polish that edge, and we'll be good to go. So I'm just going to work it back and forth, same angle we sharpened it, same angle we held it on the rod. Now you can pick this up, makes it a lot easier. Now, showing all of this, I highly recommend for beginners, something like a Lansky, Wicked Edge system, something like that will give you a definite, precise edge. It takes the guesswork out of it. But once you get the hang of it, this works great. Now you can feel if there's any burr left on there. I'm kind of scratching the edge with the tip there. But you can see what I'm doing here. I can feel no resistance in there. I'm just polishing that edge. Feels pretty good. Let's see if it'll cut. I'd say that's pretty sharp. So I'm not saying it's the only way or the best way to establish an edge on a knife. You're using a belt grinder, run it slow. You don't want to overheat that edge and lose your temper. For beginners, I highly suggest, some kind of sharpening system, like I mentioned, Lansky's or a Wicked Edge. I'll put a link in the description like the one I've got. It's very old, but it'll work. It works great. I just don't use it no more. This works great for me. I've done this for many, many years, like I said. Once you learn how to do it, second nature, and you need to know how to freehand sharpen. When you're in the field, you don't have this stuff. If you got any questions, leave them down in the comments. I appreciate you watching, and we'll see you on the next one.